Hello everyone. Topic for today's discussion is diabetic foot, which is a common consequences in case of uncontrolled complicated diabetes. Foot infections in any patient with diabetes are the common initiating event which ultimately results in loss of limb whenever there is requirement of amputation of the limb. It is seen that about 60% of the lower limb amputations, lower extremity amputations in any patient with diabetes occurs due to the infected foot ulcers. These infections in the lower extremities are often polymicrobial, means these are infections with multiple variety of bacteria which consist of aerobic gram positive, gram negative, as well as obligate anaerobic bacteria. Sometimes this diabetic foot can be changed into a potential emergency condition, and this may be turned into a serious problem within a hours. The diabetic foot is a common cause for hospitalization in any patient with diabetes, which ultimately leads to increase in the cost of treatment. As I have already mentioned that these diabetic foot ulcers are the leading cause of amputations in any patient with diabetes. In a study which was carried out in year 2016, it is found that global prevalence of diabetic foot was approximately 6%. Let's see the magnitude of this problem. This diabetic foot infection, foot ulcer, affects around 15% of all the patients with diabetes, as at some time in their lives they are affected with these foot infections. It is found that the prevalence of active foot ulceration varies from 1% in countries of Europe and North America, which are usually developed countries, to more than 10% in countries of Africa. This incidences, the new cases of foot ulcer in diabetes is found approx 2% per annum per year. It is seen that these foot problems accounts for approx 25 to 50% of the hospitalizations in patient with diabetes, and the diabetes is the leading cause of non-traumatic lower limb amputations in the world. Globally, over 1 million, over 10 lakhs lower limb are lost due to the diabetes and its complications annually, and it is seen that in every 30 seconds there is a loss of lower limb in the world due to the diabetes. In India, over 1 lakh lower limbs are lost annually due to the diabetes, and approximately 75% of the amputations are usually due to the neuropathic feet with secondary infections, which can be prevented by proper precautions and appropriate preventive methods. In studies from Western countries, it is found that approx 15% of the patients with diabetes show diabetic foot ulcer in any time of their life. In Indian studies, it is found that diabetic foot and foot ulcerations, they become the cause for the 20% of the hospital admissions in patients with diabetes. This diabetic foot can be result of due to the complications of diabetes like diabetic neuropathy, due to some infections, and due to peripheral vascular diseases. Now let's discuss what are the risk factors behind the development of this diabetic foot. So this risk factor includes the most important is poor glycemic control in any patient with diabetes, the habit of smoking, presence of deformities of feet in such persons, already presence of any callus or cones in the lower limb, development of any peripheral arterial disease, any past history of foot ulcers can also predispose to development of diabetic foot. The presence of one of the microvascular complication of diabetes known as diabetic nephropathy, which is also known as chronic kidney disease or end-stage renal disease. Also, the presence of another complications, microvascular complication of diabetes, that is diabetic retinopathy or visual disturbances, and presence of another microvascular complication which is peripheral neuropathy. Now let's see what are the predisposing factors for causation of this foot ulceration in any person with uncontrolled diabetes. Any trauma causes development of foot ulceration. If large and small blood vessel disease is already present in any person with diabetes, that can also lead to ulceration in the foot. Any susceptibility to infection due to the lower immunity in diabetes also causes ulceration of foot. If chronic sensory and motor neuropathy have been developed, then it may also lead to foot ulceration. If one of the complication of diabetes, which is known as autonomic neuropathy, is already there, and it can lead to dryness of the skin in such individual. If any local deformity of feet is already present, so all this cause will lead to development of foot ulceration, which will ultimately result in requirement of amputation of the lower limb. Now let's discuss to the diabetic peripheral neuropathy. This diabetic peripheral neuropathy involves the impairment in the sensory, impairment in the motor, as well as the impairment in the autonomic functions in any individual. And the most common presentation out of this diabetic peripheral neuropathy is chronic distal symmetrical polyneuropathy. Out of this sensory, motor and autonomic functional disturbance, this sensory neuropathy is the most common type of neuropathy, and due to this sensory neuropathy, patients suffer from an inability to detect the sense of temperature, the vibration sense, proprioception, the pressure and pain senses. Sometimes this diabetic neuropathy can be presented as painful condition. Patient suffer from the condition of paresthesia, which is a burning, tingling or pricking sensation over the arms, the feet, legs and hands. The motor neuropathy is also common in this diabetic peripheral neuropathy, usually which affects the intrinsic muscles of the foot, and it ultimately leads to wasting of the muscles, instability of the joints, and usually these deformities are rigid, and this gives rise to pressure points, which ultimately cause ulceration of these pressure points. As we have discussed that autonomic neuropathy can also be a variety of this diabetic peripheral neuropathy, which causes the impairment in the vascular regulation, dryness and fissuring of the skin, and dysregulation in the perspiration, or also known as sweating. Sometimes there may be increase in the sweating, which is known as hyperhidrosis, and this increase in sweating leads to increased risk for the fungal infections. Few hyperkinetic lesions can lead to increase in the friction on the stiff skin, which may lead to further generation of the ulcers. The increase in the thickness and increase in the pressure on the deep tissues results in the ulceration. The musculoskeletal deformities are also common in any condition of diabetic foot. If there is glycation of the collagen protein in mononeuropathy, so it can promote the development of few deformities like bunion and hemato. Bunion is the condition when there is bony bump or bony swelling is found at the joint of the base of the big toe, and this bony bump results in the bone deformity, pain and stiffness. These foot deformities can also lead to increase in the friction and increase in the pressure, which can also lead to ultimately development of risk of ulceration. Now discussing to the peripheral vascular disease. This peripheral vascular disease is a condition in which there is narrowing of the blood vessels are found, and due to narrowing of the blood vessels there is reduction or reduced blood supply to the lower limbs is found. This peripheral vascular disease leads to progression of small insignificant injuries to development of large ulcers, which is also combined with the reduced healing power of the tissues due to the diabetes, due to reduced immunity in diabetes. This reduced blood supply to the lower limb, to the ischemic tissue, it also affects the delivery of systemic antibiotics used to treat these foot ulcer conditions. Any patient who is having ankle brachial index of less than 9.9, they are at higher risk for development of the foot ulcers. This ankle brachial index is a measurement of simple method or screening method for any peripheral vascular diseases, and this ABI, ankle brachial index, is the ratio of systolic blood pressure of the foot to systolic blood pressure in the arms, and ankle brachial index of more than 0.9 is considered to be the normal, or ankle brachial index less than 0.9 is considered to be risk of development of peripheral vascular disease. Now discussing to the diabetic foot ulcers. A diabetic foot ulcer is a wound which is found usually below the ankle, and it usually disrupts the intactness of the skin, and sometimes it may result for the formation of gangrenous tissue. The development of this diabetic foot ulcer is due to presence of neuropathy in diabetes as well as the presence of ischemia due to the peripheral vascular diseases. The commonly found foot ulcers in any patient with diabetes is found to be have delay in healing process, as well as also they have a high tendency for the recurrence. These diabetic foot ulcers have highest risk for re-ulceration recurrence within 50 days of their earlier healing. If the ulcers are non-healing type, or if the infections are spreading, then this may lead to causation of amputations. If infections are deep, so sometimes it can involve the bones in form of osteomyelitis. It can also involve the muscles, tendons, deep tissue planes. So what are the precipitating factors for the foot ulcerations? The first one is barefoot walking without using any footwear. So this may lead to mechanical and thermal injury to the sole of the foot. Second is the shoe bite occurring due to the ill-fitting or tight-fitting footwears. The third cause may be the home surgery for the cones and calluses which have already developed. The fourth cause may be the improper cutting of the nails, and another cause may be the due to the insect and rodent bite. Here in this picture we can see how this insect or rodent bite look like. These are the cones and calluses. So what are the methods for the evaluation of any foot? The foot examination in any diabetic patient includes the looking for the general appearance of the foot, which includes the size of the foot, shape, the color, thickness, presence of any dryness, any cracking, and also we should look for any development of pressure points, for any cones or calluses, and we should also look for the nails for any infections or any fissures or any cuts. We should also do a mononeurofilament test. This mononeurofilament test is used by using the Siemens Winston monofilament. This Siemens Winston monofilaments is a kind of nylon filament which is used to test the touch sensation over the foot. This nylon filament is designed to bend when there is a force of 10 gram is applied. By using this nylon filament, the person is asked to indicate when he feels the touch of the monofilament, and he has to appreciate, he has to convey that he has felt the touch sensation, and this pressure or this touch sensation is applied to the various points of the foot. And as per the recommendation, we should use minimum 4 sites to test this monofilament touch test. If the person is able to perceive the sensation, it means the touch sensations are intact. If person is unable to perceive the sensation at any site, then we should again test, we should retest by using this filament. And if any person at any site is unable to perceive the touch of this monofilament, then the person has high risk to develop the ulceration. Coming to the ankle jerk, this ankle jerk is usually performed either in supine position or sitting position of the patient by using a standard reflex hammer. This ankle jerk is also known as Achilles reflex. In diabetes, it is seen that there may be absent in the ankle jerk, and this diabetes can lead to a development of a syndrome known as restless leg syndrome, and in this the ankle jerk will be absent after using a hammer. The next is the vibration sense testing, and this vibration sense testing is done using a 128 Hz tuning fork. The tuning fork is excited firstly, and it is placed over few bony points. These bony points can be the great toe, medial malleolus, and the tibial tuberosity. And in this, the response of the patient about his feeling of vibration is noted, and in this we compare the feeling of duration of the vibration sense as compared to the examiner. The another evaluation method is detecting the peripheral sensations. Now let's discuss the other investigations which are to be performed in any patient with diabetic foot. The metabolic status of the person is also noted by assessing the glycemic control, the level of blood glucose, the hemogram, the hemoglobin level, level of urea, creatinine, other electrolytes, and liver function test. X-ray of foot is performed to see any deformities. Biothiometry is also performed. This biothiometry is an apparatus which is used to assess the vibration sensation by determining the vibration perception threshold known as VPT. This biothiometer probe is applied to various bony prominences which can be toe, medial malleolus, wrist, and this is made to vibrate. the intensity of this vibration is usually gradually increased, and the point at which the patient can appreciate the vibration is termed as vibration perception threshold, and this is usually recorded in volts. Slowly these vibrations are increased. If the vibration perception threshold is more than 20 in lower limb, so it indicates the high risk for development of peripheral neuropathy in that individual. Apart from that, vibration sense, which we have already discussed, is performed. We also look for the size of the foot, shape and color of the foot, and pressure points, calluses, development of calluses and cones, and the nails are also examined comprehensively. Now let's see the classification of the diabetic foot. The diabetic foot can be divided into two categories: the neuropathic foot and the neuroischemic foot. In neuropathic foot, the foot is warm, well perfused with the blood, with bonding pulses. Pulses will be felt, and the dorsal veins will be distended. Sometimes callus can also be seen with this neuropathic foot. Other deformities like clot-avos can also be seen, and these are more prone for the development of Charcot arthropathy. This Charcot arthropathy is a condition of the foot and ankle which is caused by an inability to sense the injuries, and which ultimately leads to development of various deformities in the lower limb. Sometimes it can also develop into the necrosis if severe infections are there. As compared to the neuropathic foot, in neuroischemic foot, it is found with cool pulseless foot with poor perfusion, poor blood circulation. Usually neuropathy is coexisted with this neuroischemic foot, and it can readily develop into the necrosis. Usually the plantar ulcers are rare, however the ulcers are usually found at the edges of the foot. Here in these pictures we can see how the neuropathic foot ulcer looks like, in which the plantar ulcers are very common. However, in neuroischemic foot, the plantar ulcers are less. However, the ulcers are usually found in the edges of the foot. In ischemic condition, it can develop into the necrosis of the foot. Now discussing to the staging of the diabetic foot. Diabetic foot can be divided into the 6 stages as per the various risk factors, presence of symptoms. So in stage 1 it is known as normal foot. So in this there will be no risk factors, no symptoms, and usually the foot examination is normal, as we can see in this picture. The second stage is high risk foot. Here the risk factors will be present, however there will be no ulceration. However, there may be the past history of ulceration which can increase the risk for the ulceration in future. In this picture we can see the third stage is the ulcerated foot, where the skin breakdown will be present in the form of ulcer or presence of blister or fissures, as we can see here in this picture. Stage 4 is stage of infected foot, where we will find the purulent discharge or cellulitis over the foot. The fifth stage is stage of necrotic foot, where necrosis will be found due to the ischemia or due to the severe infection, as it is visible in this picture. And finally the unsalvageable foot. Here foot cannot be saved, and always there will be need for the amputations, as we can see in this last picture. There is another classification for this diabetic foot, which is known as Magid-Wagner classification. Here also the diabetic foot has been graded into 6 grading stages, starting from grade 0 to grade 5. The grade 0 includes foot at high risk for the foot ulceration, but presently there is no ulceration. In grade 1, the superficial ulcerations will be present. In grade 2, deep ulcerations will be present, but there is no involvement of bony structures. In grade 3, deep ulcerations are present with the presence of infections also, and it will involve the bony structures in form of osteomyelitis. The grade 4 includes the presence of localized gangrene, and in grade 5 it is with extensive gangrene requiring for the amputations. The management of the diabetic foot ulcers requires a multidisciplinary approach involving various health professionals, which includes the podiatrist. This podiatrist is a specialist, a person who treats the feet and their ailments. Specifically, we can also use the interventional radiologist to check for any radiological deformity and requirement of further intervention. The orthotist is also required. The orthotist is a healthcare professional who usually makes and fits the braces and the splints for the people with the bony deformity, lower limb deformity. This also needs the requirement of treatment by any general surgeon, vascular surgeon, orthopedic surgeon. Also, one educator is also needed for the treatment of the diabetic foot ulcer, who will make aware the people about the preventive methods for the foot ulcers. Now discussing to the principles of diabetic foot management. It involves the treatment in case of normal foot, treatment for those who are having high risk foot. In case of normal foot, we need to advise for the preventive methods for the risk factors. The better proper glycemic control is needed, proper lipid control is needed, and good foot care practices are advised to such person with normal foot. Those who are in high risk to develop the foot ulcers or develop the diabetic foot, in those the proper footwear, use of proper footwears are advised. The Chiracopody, which is a method of care and treatment of the foot, Chiracopody for the treatment of corn and calluses are advised. They are advised for the better metabolic control. These kind of patients are educated about their ailments or future risk of development of some complications, and also they are advised for the use of good footwear in their feet. Coming to the management of this Charcot foot. In acute stage of Charcot foot, patient is advised for the immobilization of the foot by application of total contact cast or diabetic air cast walker. Stress reduction on the affected foot is also advised by non-weight bearing or by the partial weight bearing using the crutches and walkers. The intravenous bisphosphonates have been found to be very helpful in reducing the pain and inflammation in such person with Charcot foot. In case of chronic stage or quiescent stage of Charcot foot, the orthotic management is advised by using footwear and the insoles. In case of recurrent ulcerations, so in that surgery is needed by exosterectomy or by the orthodesis. Usually the surgery is contraindicated in case of acute Charcot foot. Surgery is usually recommended only for the chronic stages. So what should be the approaches for the ulcerated foot? In case of the neuropathic ulcer, the offloading is recommended, which is distribution of the pressure. Also the podiatry, that is treatment of feet, or surgical interventions are needed, and regular dressings are carried out, and after that the special footwears are advised, and they are also educated about the proper foot care. In case of neuroischemic ulcer, the general surgeon can perform the debridement of the wound and amputation if needed, and followed to by that rehabilitation by the suitable prosthesis. Vascular intervention can use the reduction of the pressure points and followed by the regular follow of the such ulcers. Now discussing to the management of diabetic foot, the following patients are at high risk for development of diabetic foot, and these require the multidisciplinary approach for the treatment of such diabetic foot. So these high risk persons involved patient with foot ulcers or persons who have history of foot ulcers, person who are already undergoing dialysis, it means they have already developed the chronic kidney disease or end stage renal disease, patient with charcot foot, it means already the deformities have been developed in their foot, and patient who have already been amputated. So the debridement of foot ulcers means the removal of the ischemic and necrotic tissues from the foot ulcers and surrounding callus. The superficial infection usually respond with the debridement, that is followed by the using of regular dressings and the oral antibiotics. However, the deep infections, which usually involve the osteomyelitis, the involvement of bony structures, the myositis, the involvement of muscles, the tendinitis, the involvement of tendons, and such patient require inpatient therapy, treatment of such patient by hospitalization and by use of the parenteral antibiotics. However, the meanwhile glycemic status can be make better by use of the parenteral insulin. Usually the surgical resection is needed for the person who have already developed the foot deformities and who are infected with callus. For the better wound healing, we can also advise the persons to use platelet derived growth factors, which are useful in the wound care and better wound healing. In case of peripheral ischemia, the revascularization process like surgical bypass and transluminal angioplasty can also be performed. The principle of management of infected diabetic foot involves the microbiological control, the wound control, vascular control, the mechanical control, and the metabolic control. Let's discuss about the microbiological control first. So this microbiological advice control should be tailor-made, and this should be based on the severity of the tissue damage and the integrity of the vascular supply of the part of that feet, as well as this should be prescribed based on the cultural results. If this diabetic foot are left untreated, then it can rapidly progress and develops complications, and they may lead to loss of the limb, or even sometimes it may cause the septicemia, and it may lead to end of the life also. So the proper empirical antibiotic therapy is indicated in such significant complicated diabetic foot ulcers. In this list we can see few suggestive antimicrobiological therapy for the foot ulcers based on the type of infection, which can be non-limb threatening, limb threatening, and life threatening. Coming to the mechanical control of the diabetic foot, and it is most useful, most important in case of healing of the neuropathic plantar ulcers, when the offloading or distribution of pressure is needed, and this mechanical control offloading can be achieved by using total contact cast or removable cast workers, as we can see this in these pictures. Now coming to the metabolic control of diabetes in such person with diabetic foot, so in that we need to monitor the blood glucose at least at 4-hourly duration. Any patient with oral anti-diabetic drugs, we can switch over to insulin injections if needed. In most cases, the increase in insulin dosage is required in case of persistent hyperglycemia also. And in metabolic control, the maintenance of adequate fluid intake can also be a very important part. Coming to the management of the necrotic foot, in case there is neuropathic foot, in such condition the severe infection can lead to necrosis of the foot, and usually such necrosis is wait, and for such neuropathic foot ulcers surgery is usually indicated. However, in case of neuroischemic foot, the necrosis is due to the macrovascular occlusion, not due to the microangiopathic occlusion. And in neuroischemic foot, usually the necrosis is dry. Coming to the management of the necrotic foot, it can be achieved by the surgical options, which involves the operative surgical debridement, the facilitated auto amputation, and the larval therapy, which is usually used in the West countries. This larval therapy is also known as the maggot debridement therapy, in which for chronic and non-healing wounds we use the controlled application of the fly larva over the infected wounds. In the management of necrotic foot, tight metabolic control is very important in each and every cases. Discussing to the psychological aspects of the diabetic foot, so depression is the most common ailment which is found in any patient with diabetic foot, and it is resulted due to the prolonged hospitalization requirement in such patient with diabetic foot. Their quality of life is compromised. There might be economic constraints due to the disability. This trauma of amputation can affect the physical health as well as the psychological health of the person going through this diabetic foot. Hence, there may be requirement of a clinical psychologist for the better psychological support of such patients. In the management of diabetic foot, the footwear intervention can also play a very important role, and usually these footwears are used to offload the pressure. These footwears are usually made up with soft and comfortable padded slippers, and they are usually available in the form of chappals and sandals with the bag strap. Sometimes padded socks are also available to reduce the pressures. Usually these footwears are made up of microcellular rubber, MCR rubber, and microcellular polymer. Apart from these normal footwears, the footwears can also be made by measuring the plantar pressure distribution, so that it can be more comfortable for the person to prevent the foot ulcers. And these shoes can be made with the midsole pressure relief plugs. The rigid rocker bottom soles can be used in case the person is with significant deformity. The extra depth can be achieved by using flat insoles, and arthrosis like conditions can be created by using patellar tendon bearing brass in such footwears. These diabetic foot problems can be prevented by using few preventive methods. Those preventive methods include: do not sit cross-legged for long time, do not remove the footwear while during the travel, and do not place your feet on the hot objects like silencer of the bike. This can cause the burn. Persons should regularly cut their nails. Do not cut the corns and calluses at home using the blade or knife. The home surgery can be dangerous. Clean the feet twice a day using the soap and water, and after that wipe the web spaces properly and apply the softening agents to the feet. Do not walk barefoot. Always use footwears. Inspect for the feet for presence of development of any blisters, wounds, bleeding points, any foul smell, or increased temperature at the pressure points. Do not apply the hot fermentation or cold compresses or any electric heating pads over the foot or any strong counter irritant ointments over the legs and feet. Person should always use a correct footwear, and this footwear should be selected after consulting the doctors, physicians. This footwear should always be wear with the socks with loose elastics. Do not walk the bearing weight over the foot in case there is wound is present or after the surgery. So what should be the strategies for saving the diabetic foot? The first strategy should be correction of the vascular risk factors in any patient with diabetes, improvement in the circulation in the lower limb, regular inspection of the foot, treatment of the foot ulcers timely by appropriate microbiological methods, prescription of the special shoes in case of requirement. Teamwork is very important by integrated approach. And lastly, the patient education is must about the preventive and treatment methods. Coming to the conclusion of this presentation, so in any patient with diabetic foot, a multidisciplinary approach is very important for early diagnosis, for proper evaluation and diagnosis, for management of such diabetic foot, and which can ultimately lead to reduction in the amputation rates. Now we are at the end of this presentation. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and share this video with others.